And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Wednesday, April 9th. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into all that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we had some major news yesterday in the NBA as the Denver Nuggets have essentially cleaned house right before the playoffs. This is now the second team that's kind of done this. The Grizzlies also let go of their head coach prior to the postseason, but that was, a little while ago. But the Nuggets are now the most recent team to do that. They let go of Mike Malone and also their general manager, Calvin Booth. They let him go as well. So we're going to get into that, talk about why that transpired. Then we'll also talk about the NBA action from yesterday. Mainly we'll talk about the Knicks-Celtics game. I had that on, was watching that. The Celtics, of course, got the win in a close game. Game went to overtime. We'll talk about that. The Thunder also got their revenge against the Lakers from the other night. So we'll talk about that. And then just take a look at the standings now, where everything sits. We'll also talk about the 49ers. We will talk about Kyle Shanahan, his recent comments on Christian McCaffrey, and how the 49ers could be addressing the running back situation or the running back position in the draft. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about the Yankees. They've lost 3 straight. Is it time to panic? We'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, we will do some post-free agency rankings, divisional rankings, I should say. So today we'll be ranking the teams in the NFC East. So I will rank them, from first to fourth. Well, we'll start from 4 and then move up to 1. I'll rank them based off of how I feel they did in free agency and how the teams currently look at the moment. So that's the rundown for the show today. Let's get into the first topic, which is talking about the Nuggets cleaning house. So this was yesterday, and again, the Grizzlies, they let their head coach go as well. This was a little bit more shocking, I feel, when it comes to the Nuggets. Michael Malone, of course, was the coach when they won the championship a couple years ago. And, I don't think really any of us saw this coming. The Nuggets right now, I think they sit in the 4th seed in the Western Conference. But the Nuggets felt like this was a move they had to make right now. They also did release a statement, which I will read to you in a moment. Oh, so now the Nuggets actually are the 5th seed, but you have 4 teams that are tied right now with the same record. You got the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, and the Grizzlies. They're all tied with the same record. And then you got the Timberwolves, who are a game behind them, and then you got the Lakers, who are a game ahead of all those teams. Lakers are currently the 3. So once again, the Western Conference, a reminder, it's going to be a dogfight to the end of the year. But I wanted to talk about the statement that was released by the Nuggets on this. So this is a statement from Josh Kroenke, and it says, and I quote, "It is with no pleasure that we announce that we have relieved Michael Malone of his head coaching duties, effective immediately. David Edelman will assume our head coaching role for the remainder of the 2024-2025 season. While the timing of this decision is unfortunate, as Coach Malone helped build the foundation of our now championship-level program, it is a necessary step to allow us to compete at the highest level right now. We look forward to building on the foundations laid by Coach Malone over his record-breaking 10-year career in Denver. It is with our utmost respect that we would like to thank Coach Malone for the most successful decade in Nuggets history, setting the all-time wins record and helping deliver our first championship." Now, from some of the stuff that I was reading, first off, I I know there was a lot of stuff being talked about when it came to a recent press conference. The Nuggets lost to the Trailblazers. Coach Malone kind of went on a little rant talking about the players and how they don't watch film. And, I guess maybe that could have rubbed people the wrong way. And maybe that was the cause of his firing. That led to his firing. But also, when talking about the general manager, it seemed like there was a discrepancy on the roster. Michael Malone wanted to win. The front office kind of wanted to save money and try to develop young players, but so there was a difference in philosophy. And, I kind of signed with Coach Malone because, yeah, you have Jokic, right? He's the best player in the NBA right now. And you want to win as much as possible. You want to maximize the championships that you can win in this window that you have. So, if that's the case, I do agree. I would agree with the coach. But also, if you're having issues with the roster, that shouldn't mean that the head coach should be on the way out too, right? That should also mean that, that should mean that, this is on the general manager. The coach doesn't build the team. Now, the coach coaches the team. They do the best they can. They try to get as much out of their players as possible. But ultimately, if you don't have the roster that's up to par, that's on the general manager. And had the Nuggets let go of their general manager, and that's it, all right. I mean, again, the timing would have been weird, but would have been strange. But at least, hey, it would be understandable. But that is not the case. That is not the case. They are both out. Which, again, this is the second time that we've seen this year. And listen, I understand if you're a franchise in any sport, if you decide to let go of your coach or your manager, I understand that. But I only understand it when it's earlier in the season or if it's mid-season. But when you're doing it towards the end of the season, and especially if you're a team that is competing for a playoff spot, that's in a playoff spot right now, that doesn't make much sense to me. To me, you let this season play out. You let the playoffs play out. And if it doesn't pan out, then, Shaq talked about it on, Inside the NBA. You say, Coach, thank you for everything, but we're going to go in a different direction. I don't think you pull the rug out on him right when you're about to enter the postseason, because you're giving this new coach, this interim coach, no time, essentially, to prepare for the playoffs. And in the playoffs, anything can happen. Anything can happen. Like, yeah, Denver might not be playing great right now. They got some injuries. Jamal Murray's banged up. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that. But you get everybody back healthy, and I apologize. I'm dealing with some common issues with the camera. What else is new? But Denver still has a chance to do something. They might be struggling towards the end of the season, but if they can get in, as long as you get into the postseason, anything can happen. And right now they're the 4th seed. Like, it's not like they're, a fringe playoff team. They're definitely going to be in the play-in. I mean, they could be in the play-in. That's still a possibility. But, they are a top 4 seed right now. And you're letting go of your coach right before the season ends, the regular season ends. I just don't agree with that. I do not agree with that. And I really didn't agree with it when it came to the Grizzlies. Now, the Grizzlies did kind of fall off a bit because, they were like the 2 seed, and then they fell all the way down to like, the 7th or the 8th seed. All right, but still, like, you're going to make the playoffs. or I guess the play-in. Again, I keep combining the playoffs with the play-in. The play-in is not the playoffs. But I just think that because, But yeah, I mean, there's maybe some other things that were going on that we don't know about. Look, the bottom line is this. It's a players-driven league, right? The players have control. And at least from some of the stuff I was reading, this really just had to do with ownership saying, look, we want to go in a different direction and whatnot. But I just don't agree with this. I don't agree with this. And you know what? This is going to become normalized. This is going to become normalized where you're going to see even teams that are going to make the playoffs, you are going to see, hey, if we don't like this guy, doesn't matter if we're going to make the playoffs. He's gone. And if it's towards the end of the year, it doesn't matter. You will see more of this. I don't think this is just going to be an anomaly. Because that's what the NBA is right now. Like I said, the players have the power. And again, if ownership feels that coach is not doing a good job, even if they are going to make the playoffs, they don't care. And I don't think Michael Malone deserves this because this is a guy that won a championship with this team. And you're not even going to let him finish the season? They're going to make the playoffs. It's strange. That's really all you could say. It's strange. But I think this is going to be a new trend in the NBA. I really do believe that. I really do. So, looking at the Nuggets' remaining schedule, so like I said, right now they're the 5th seed, okay? And they could change that, for better or for worse. They have lost, wow, how many games have they lost in a row now? They've lost 4 in a row. So I guess really they were just like, all right, we've had enough. They lose to Jokic has that 60-point game against the Timberwolves. They lose by 1. The triple-double. They lose to the Spurs. They lose to the Warriors. They lose to the Pacers. They got 3 games remaining. They're at the Kings, home against the Grizzlies, and then at the Rockets. They could still make up ground here. They could pass the Clippers. Maybe they get lucky. The Lakers slip up. They pass them. And then all of a sudden you have the 3rd seed. But right now they're looking at the 5th seed. And last year, I would have thought that I thought they were going to win again. I did. I really did. And then the Timberwolves happened. So it's just, yeah. No, I don't know. Not a good look. Not a good look. I would have let him play it out. But I also wanted to bring up, this was a graphic that TNT posted on their show. NBA championship coaches since 2019. Nick Nurse won the title in 2019, was out in 2023. Frank Vogel won in 2020, was out in 2022. Mike Budenholzer with the Bucks won in 2021, was out in 2023. Steve Kerr still coaching the Warriors. He's not going anywhere. Joe Mazzulla won last year. Obviously is still there. But Michael Malone won in 2023. He's out in 2025. I don't get it. Anthony in the chat says the longest tenured coaches in the NBA right now that haven't gotten fired from their current positions are Steve Kerr, Eric Spoelstra, and Greg Popovich. Yeah, that would be correct. I don't think you're missing anybody. Seems like in general, every other job in the NBA, their franchises have the coach for maybe 5 or 6 years. It's rude that you see a coach there for 10. Yeah, and you see a lot of changes. Don't get me wrong. You see a lot of changes with coaching, with coaches, right? They're always going different places. But I don't think we've seen this, where you see coaches getting released or getting fired so late into the season, and you're going to make the playoffs. But I think you're going to see more of that. This is going to begin a trend. I really do believe that. All right, so we are going to take our first break of the show now. And then when we come back, we're going to talk more NBA. We'll talk about the Celtics and their win over the Knicks, and we'll also talk about the Thunder getting their revenge on the Lakers from the loss the other night. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to recap some of the NBA action from yesterday, mainly the Celtics-Knicks game. We'll also talk about the Thunder a little bit, getting their revenge on the Thunder in their two-game set. They split the two-game set. It's like, it's like baseball. Playing back-to-backs against the same team in the same arena. You don't really, I mean, again, for me watching basketball, you don't really see that, but, that has been something that they've done recently, I guess, to lessen the travel, but unless I'm off base on that. So let's get into the Knicks and the Celtics. So the Knicks have really struggled against the best teams in their conference, the Celtics and the Cavs, and once again they lost. However, they played a very good game. They played the best game that they possibly could, or no, they could play better, but they played the best that they had against, the Celtics and or the Cavs, who they will be playing again, I think tomorrow. But anyways, they lost a tough game though. They'll be playing the Cavs on Friday. They play the Pistons tomorrow, so that's going to be a tough game as well. But yeah, I mean, the Celtics are they're on a whole nother level. They are on a whole nother level. And you see who I have up here? An old friend in Kristaps Porzingis, who he was on another level last night too. I mean, he's pulling up from the logo. I mean, he's hitting all these threes. I mean, I know Kristaps could shoot threes, but I mean, I didn't know he could do it like that. But that's just the Celtics. The Celtics, that is a team that loves to shoot the three. And Kristaps last night, he went 8 of 13 from 3. Was 11 of 19 shooting in general. Finished with 34 points. He was great. He was great last night. And then, of course, you have Jason Tatum, who, I mean, he's, one of the best players in the NBA. 32 points last night. And he hit the shot to tie the game to send it into overtime. He kind of, got OG Anunoby on a spin cycle, hit the, step back, hit the three, tied the game, and they went into overtime. And the Celtics, took care of business in overtime. They outscored the Knicks 12-10. Well, the Knicks shot a, last second three by Brunson. But yeah, that put them up, or that, made the score closer than it was. It would have been a 5-point loss, but it ended up turning into a 2-point loss. A big play in this game, though, was that turnover by Mikal Bridges. That turnover by Mikal Bridges was devastating. The Knicks were down by 3. Of course, Kristaps hits the go-ahead 3 to put them up 115-112. And then, Brunson misses a 3. They get the rebound. They call a timeout. And then They pass it to Bridges, and Bridges turns the ball over. And then they pan to Carmelo Anthony immediately, and he was in disbelief with what happened there. And, yeah, it was just, and the Knicks still have not beat the Celtics. Now, they have an opportunity to maybe beat the Cavs, and if they don't, what is their combined record then? 0-10 against these teams this year? So for the Knicks, all 5 starters are in the double digits. Karl Anthony Towns, who's been great this year, double-double, 14 rebounds, 34 points. OG Anunoby had 13 and 8 rebounds. Mikal Bridges had 14 points. Not a great shooting night. OG also was 0 for 5 from 3. Josh Hart had a double-double. He had 10 points and 11 rebounds. Not a great shooting night for him, 5 for 14. And Jalen Brunson had 27 points. And looking at the comparisons for the two teams, both teams shot around the same. The Celtics shot 46%. Knicks shot 47.5%. The Lakers, talk about them in a second. Celtics 38.8% from three-point range. The Knicks only shot 28.9%. Celtics were 80% from the free throw line. Knicks were 62%, 62.5%, which is not good. But I've talked about this over and over and over and over again since I started doing the sports podcast here. The Knicks' ceiling is the second round. That's what it comes down to. Now, I will say this was different than the previous games this season because the Knicks were competitive here. The Knicks could have won this game. And if it wasn't for the heroics of Jason Tatum, that game ends in regulation. And you maybe were getting the sense that it was going to be the Knicks' night. And, they were up 1, right? They were up 1. And then, Jalen Brunson finds Josh Hart. Hart's able to put it in the basket for 2 points to put them up 3. And I was like, all right, just play defense. Just play defense. Do what you're supposed to do best. And yeah, like I said, Jason Tatum was able to fake out OG Anunoby, hit the step back 3 to tie the game 107. But again, you got to like the fight that the Knicks had. And, I'm hoping that you get to the second round and you're not a pushover. Right? You really give it to these teams. But I just in a 7-game series, I just don't see it happening. But, and you look at the Celtics, one thing that sticks out to me, Jaylen Brown. He didn't have he didn't really have a big game yesterday. But also he was kind of iffy going in. So I guess, he only played he played 21 minutes. So, he'll be more of a factor when we get to the playoffs. But, the other starters, Drew Holiday, Derek White, Kristaps, Jason Tatum, all in the double digits. And they just love to shoot the 3 against the Knicks. Like I said, Porzingis, he's pulling up from the logo and he's hitting it. Like, where did you... I didn't know you had this. Look, the Celtics, the bottom line is this. They just have a very good team. And, they won the championship last year. They can definitely win it again. I don't know who's going to knock them off. It might be a team from the Western Conference. Now, speaking of the Western Conference, see, you like that little segue there? I wanted to bring up the Lakers Thunder game. So, this was the second game of a 2-game set in OKC. The Lakers won on Sunday, 126-99. Thunder got their revenge. Both teams, very high-scoring game. Both teams scored 43 points after the first quarter. Thunder outscored the Lakers in the second quarter. Lakers outscored the Thunder in the third quarter. However, the Thunder outscored the Lakers in the fourth quarter, 39-22. So this game was back and forth for a little bit. And then, like I said, once we got to the fourth quarter, the Thunder took over. Thunder took over this game. Yeah, so entering the fourth quarter, what was the score? It was the Lakers were up going into the fourth quarter. So it was close for a little bit, but then the Thunder, like I said, they took over the game. Almost midway through, it was tied at 108. Yeah, the Thunder went on a little bit of a run towards the end there. And they were able to pick up the win. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 42 points last night. Jalen Williams had 26. Chet Holmgren had 14. Lou Dort had 17. For the Lakers, LeBron James had 28. Austin Reeves, 24. And Luka had 23. He actually got ejected from the game last night. A couple of technical fouls. So, he got ejected last night. So the pool report conducted by Cliff Brunt of the AP has JT Orr saying that Luka Doncic directed profanity towards an official twice, leading to the 2 technicals that earned him an ejection. So that is why, again, I didn't get to see it. I think he was. I also saw that maybe he was going back and forth with a fan. I don't know if anyone wants to clarify that in the chat or in the comments. But Luka got ejected, so that wasn't good. But Thunder got their revenge. After the Lakers really brought it to him the other night. So for the Lakers, right now they are sitting at the 3 seed in the Western Conference, and that's probably where they're going to end up staying, in my opinion. They play the Mavericks tonight. They play the Mavericks tonight in Luka's return. I did want to talk about that today because that's a big deal. We are definitely going to recap this game. It's tomorrow. It's on ESPN, so I'm definitely going to be locked in for that. A highly anticipated return to Dallas after everything that's happened, the trade. Anthony Davis will be playing in this game, I would imagine. But, yeah, this is a big deal for Luka. He never expected to leave Dallas, and he was obviously very upset when this happened. But, he's a Laker now. And, this is a team that can definitely make a finals run, in my opinion. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting, this game tonight. But the Lakers have Dallas. They have the Rockets, and then they have the Trailblazers. But these are important games because, if they slip up and some of these other teams behind them win games, we could see a seismic shift in the Western Conference standings because that's how jam-packed it is right now. So that's a big game tonight. But the Thunder, they got back to their winning ways, and their schedule is pretty light. Suns, Jazz, and Pelicans, they got the number 1 seed locked up. They could definitely rest some guys as we get into the playoffs. But right now, if the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves move on, because I would imagine that's what's going to happen in the play-in, the first round matchup for the Thunder would be the Timberwolves. So we'll see how that goes. And I think that's who knocked them out. Isn't that who knocked them out last year? The Timberwolves? I think it might have been. But that's where we're at right now. Looking at, other than the Lakers-Mavericks game tonight, the other NBA action. You got that game. Rockets and Clippers play tonight. You got the Nuggets and the Kings, Spurs and the Warriors, Thunder and the Suns. Yeah, the Suns, not a good game last night against the Warriors. They lost 133-95. Yeah, it's just disaster of a season. And Suns fans can't wait for this season to be over. And then you got Portland and Utah. You got the Heat and the Bulls. That's a big game for the play-in, I guess. Both teams are in the play-in. They got the same record. One of them could pass each other. Then you got the Charlotte Hornets against the Toronto Raptors, the 76ers against the Wizards, and then you got the Magic against the Celtics tonight. But let me know what you guys think about the games that we talked about. Let me know in the comments some of your thoughts. Before we go to break, just want to remind you guys, once again, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. It makes the show more lively, more entertaining. Between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers, we appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, we'll talk about the 49ers. We'll talk about Christian McCaffrey, Kyle Shanahan, talking about him, where he's at, and also what the 49ers could do in the NFL draft. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we are now going to talk about the 49ers. We're going to talk about what Kyle Shanahan had to say recently on Christian McCaffrey and what the 49ers could do in the draft. So, Christian McCaffrey, of course, did not really play that much last year. Was dealing with the Achilles tendonitis. And, you know, he did come back, played a little bit, but then ended up getting hurt against the Bills. But didn't have to get surgery. Now, Kyle Shanahan said last week via NBC Sports Bay Area that he's healthy, meaning McCaffrey. McCaffrey's healthy. He's doing great. Now, that's all well and good, but we got to see that when they take the field this upcoming season. He also said, you always hope to address it every year. This is talking about the running back position. Of course, we're set with McCaffrey, but every single year we've gone through this except for 2 years. We've gone through 4 running backs. Most teams do, so you always got to be prepared. Now, a couple guys that they let go or traded. Elijah Mitchell is now with the Chiefs, and also they traded Jordan Mason to the Vikings. But they still have Isaac Guerendo, and they also have Patrick Taylor, who played a little bit last year as well. But the running back position is definitely something that you could see the 49ers address in the draft. And I think it's very important that they do that because, you know, again, he may say Christian McCaffrey is healthy, but until we see him, you know, suit up and take the field next year, we have no idea. We have no idea. And McCaffrey, even before he got to San Francisco, was dealing with injuries. Now, once he got to the 49ers, he stayed relatively healthy. You know, it's really last year where it's just, well, not only him, but the entire team was dealing with injuries. And, you know, you had Jordan Mason in the beginning of the year, and he was running the football effectively, but then he got hurt, and then you had Isaac Guerendo running the football at times, and then he also got hurt. And Elijah Mitchell was hurt before the year even started. He didn't play at all last year. So it's just, the 49ers dealt with a lot of injuries to the team, to the running back room in general. And, yeah, you got to hope that you have a good backup plan in case McCaffrey is not 100% next year. And, you know, we talked about the running back class. This is a very deep running back class. So the 49ers, that could be a position that they address at some point. Maybe not necessarily in the first round, but, you know, second or third round or the fourth round or whatever. It's going to be interesting what the 49ers do in the draft. You know, because they let some guys go on defense. They lost a backup tackle to Trent Williams to the Chiefs. So offensive line maybe. I mean, I could see them. Honestly, I feel like their first pick could be secondary. I don't know. Because you lost Hufanga, Charvarius Ward left. Or linebacker maybe. Because Dre Greenlaw is no longer there. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting what they do. But yeah, running back is a position they should address. The defense, I think, is going to get a ton of attention in this draft as well. They need to revamp that defense. And like I said, offensive line. Because I think you're pretty much set at receiver. You could bring in someone for depth. But, you got if Brandon Ayuk is healthy. You have him, Ricky Pearsall, and Juwan Jennings. That's your main three. And then you got George Kittle at tight end. So, yeah, it's going to be weird not seeing Deebo Samuel on the field next year for the Niners. But that's where we're at. So, yeah, I mean, the 49ers were a disappointing team last year. I mean, this was a team that I had, as the number one seed again because, they've been consistent the last couple of years, and it's just injuries really affected this team. That was the main cause of why they didn't make the playoffs. If you had a fully healthy 49ers team, I think, you would have saw different results. Because they lost a lot of close games last year. And in their division, I mean, they lose tight games to the Rams, the Seahawks, the Cardinals. I mean, you flip those games, and all of a sudden, you could be a playoff team. And it's just, and then you had that rough stretch, that 2-game stretch between the Packers and the Bills. It was ugly. It was an ugly year, and they hope to put that in their rearview mirror and, turn the page and get back to how they were the previous 2 years. But it's going to be tough, though, because, the Rams, they're not going anywhere. They got Devontae Adams now. Matthew Stafford is, back. He's on a new deal. And the Cardinals, they swept the 49ers last year. Now, the last game, they sat Purdy, but, Cardinals won that game. And then, Seattle, they won one game. So, yeah, the 49ers have to, 49ers, like I said, forget about last year, throw that out the window, focus on this year, and hope things turn around. But, look, Christian McCaffrey is a very important player. He's very important to what the 49ers do. And hopefully he could stay healthy. But, you do worry. You do worry about McCaffrey because, again, has an injury history, was injured last year, and getting older. It's not like the injuries are going to slow down. So, and we've talked about this before and on the football podcast. They want to monitor his workload. I don't think, maybe you do from time to time, but they are definitely going to give McCaffrey a break at times. As they should. You want to preserve him. Because, the last thing you want is to run him into the ground and then, he gets hurt again. But also, you could take as much precautions as you want. Football's a violent sport. He could still get hurt. So, yeah, I do agree with, if they monitor his workload, but still. Even if you do that, he could still end up getting hurt. So, but he is a great player. That was a great trade that the Niners made. It's just unfortunately that, the last couple of years, they made it far. It's just they come up short. I really do wonder. The Eagles probably still win, but what happens if Brock Purdy doesn't get hurt in that championship game? How does that go? And the Super Bowl, you had a 10-point lead. And you lost it. They have come so close. And now it's kind of like what happened, between the 2019 and the 2020 season where you got to the Super Bowl, you had a 10-point lead, you lose to Patrick Mahomes, and then you don't make the playoffs the following year because you're ravaged by injuries. But now, this is where things come back because, 2021, I don't think anybody was really high on the 49ers. I think people thought the 49ers were good, but I don't think people expected the 49ers to go all the way to the championship game. And that's what they did. They went on the road. They beat Dallas. They beat the Packers. They had a chance to beat the Rams, but they let the Rams come back and win that game. So they made it to 3 straight NFC championship games. And, I feel like going into this year, it's different because they lost so many guys, and everyone's like, wow, they got rid of everybody. They didn't really get rid of everybody. Drain Greenlaw was coming off of a significant injury. Deebo Samuel had a down year. Ufanga was hurt. They were expendable to the Niners. So, now it's up to the Niners, who are a very good organization. They're going to go out there and try to replace all this talent. But you still have a lot of the core guys there. So, I think the 49ers will bounce back next year. When it comes to the division, I got to see what happens in the draft, but I still like the Rams. I still like the Rams right now, but that doesn't mean the 49ers can't turn it around. Because the Seahawks, they brought in Sam Darnold. We'll see how that all pans out. And then the Cardinals, the Cardinals are a team that always starts off fast, for the most part, starts off fast with Kyler Murray, and then they slow down at the end of the year. But we'll have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys think, though, about the 49ers and their possible approach to the draft with, maybe taking a running back, which, again, I'm for that. I think they should. It's a deep class, and you got a running back that's getting older and, could get hurt again. So you want to have that insurance policy. And, especially when you traded Jordan Mason. And, again, Isaac Orendo showed you something last year, but I think you need somebody else in that room. So, yeah, we are going to take our next break. And then when we come back, we'll talk a little baseball. We will talk about the Yankees. The Yankees have lost 3 straight. Is it time to panic? There's a very easy answer to that, but there are concerns that I do have with the team. And we will talk about those concerns and if they could be corrected when we come back. They play in a couple of hours. Can't wait for this Detroit series to be over. It's been bad. There's no other way to put it. It has not been a good series for the Yankees in Detroit. And yeah, we will get into all that when we come back from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast, and for the fourth part of the show, we will now talk about the Yankees. They have lost 3 games in a row now. It has not been great, and is it time to panic? No, it's not time to panic. Now, is there concern? Yes. There is concern, because the Yankees pitching, their starting pitching, more specifically, has not been good. And this was something that was supposed to be a strength going into the season. But then you had Garrett Cole go down, get Tommy John surgery. Then you had Luis Gil, who was the Rookie of the Year last year in the American League. He went down with the latch strain, and I think it's the latch strain. And now he's out for several months. Clark Schmidt, he's banged up, but now he's supposed to come back. And all of a sudden, you have guys that were supposed to be, further down on your depth chart. They are moved up, and you got Marcus Stroman as your number 3. You have Will Warren as your number 4, and Carlos Carrasco as your number 5. And then Carlos Rodon the other night did not pitch great. Made a couple mistakes. Gave the Yankees length because they desperately needed it, but he was not great. And all of a sudden, you look and you're like, this rotation is not good. And the Yankees really need Max Fried to step up today, because you don't want to lose 4 games in a row. Again, even if they do, it's still early, but it's not good right now. And on top of that, some of the hitters are struggling. Jazz Chisholm got off to a fast start, but he is striking out at an alarming rate. Austin Wells, who got off to a fast start as well, he hasn't really been hitting. You got guys that are switch hitters, but they can't bat from the right side. Jason Dominguez, Oswaldo Cabrera, those guys cannot bat from the right side. The lone bright spots really in the batting order is Paul Goldschmidt and Aaron Judge. And Anthony Volpe. But guys have really cooled off after the whole torpedo bat fiasco, which I said, when they went up against the Diamondbacks, I said they are going to get a reality check. And that's what happened. And it's kind of extended a little bit. Now, they did win 2 games against, they won 3 in a row. They won the final game against the Diamondbacks. They won the first 2 against the Pirates. And then, Andrew Heaney was pitching really well against them, but then they got to the Pirates bullpen, they tied the game, and then they lost in extra innings, which they can never seem to win in extra innings since the ghost runner was fully implemented. They just can't win in extra innings. And now they've lost 2 straight against Detroit. Now, before we get more into the Yankees, I just want to say the Tigers are a good team. They are. They made the playoffs last year. They have good pitching. They got some good young players over there. This is a good team. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, the Yankees are losing to an inferior team. I mean, maybe they are, maybe you still classify the Tigers as being an inferior team, but Tigers made the playoffs last year. Tigers got a good young team. They got a good manager. They got, the reigning AL Cy Young in Tariq Skubal, who pitched very well yesterday, which you kind of figured that was going to happen. It's a good team. It's a good team. So, give them credit. But, yeah, the Yankees, and also, people are saying, oh, it's very cold, and, yeah, that's why they moved the games up. But I don't care. I don't care about the weather. All right? The Tigers are playing in the same conditions. Yankees should be able to do that. But, yeah, they got shut out yesterday. They got 2 hits to start off the game, and you thought, okay, all right. And they didn't do anything with it, and that was the end of it. But, yeah, it's not looking good right now. Actually, let me see. The Yankees team ERA. Now that's going to be combined with the bullpen, which the bullpen I think has been fine. But it's, the starting pitching really has not been great. So we go to ERA. Right now, the Yankees are 25th in team ERA. They have a 4.58 ERA. That's not good. And the Mets, they have the best ERA, 2.02. And we had concerns about their rotation going into the year, but you know what? So far, so good. And the Mets have gotten off to a very good start. I think they're 8-3. Yes, they're 8-3 on the season. They are a half game up on the Phillies in first place. But Yankees pitching has to be better. Now, obviously, there's going to be stretches where the lineup doesn't do much, but you need a lot of these guys to step up. Like Carlos Rodon, can't afford for him to, have these meltdowns that people like to talk about. Well, not that they like to talk about, but they see it happening. Now, the one that happened the other day, I don't think was as egregious as, was it last year? I think it was last year where like the pitch comm wasn't working and he was like throwing a tantrum on the field. Can't have that. And, for me, Rodon, last year he was really a mixed bag because there were times where he was dominant and then there were other times where, he couldn't get anybody out. And I thought, and in the playoffs he was a bit of a mixed bag, but I thought overall I mean, the World Series game, it's the Dodgers. The Yankees still had a chance to maybe, tie the game. They just couldn't score any runs. That game didn't really get away, but also they made the decision to take him out earlier in that game. But, I thought against the Guardians in the championship series, he was good. And, he had a good start to the game against the Royals, but then, that unraveled. But you know what? Carlos Rodon, he just, not only that, but it's just, he gives up too many home runs and he walks too many guys. You can't have that. The Yankees right now are in such a tough spot with their pitching staff. You cannot afford this. That's why, before the season started, I said, you know what? They are really going to have to grind out a lot of these games because their pitching staff is not at full strength. Like, you're getting Clark Schmidt back. He's coming back soon. At some point, you're probably going to get Luis Gil back. Hopefully he's healthy and, he can recapture that glory from last year. But Garrett Cole is not walking through that door. Garrett Cole is not coming back this year. So, guys got to step up. Maybe the Yankees make a trade at some point. But it was also interesting because I was listening to some callers, on Sports Talk Radio here. And one of them was saying, it's like, what more can you do? The Yankees have put so much money into their pitching staff. What more can you do? They brought in Garrett Cole. They brought in Rodon a couple years ago. They brought in Max Fried now. I mean, now it's like, oh, well, now they got to go out and trade for another starter. I mean, really? That's where we're at? But, yeah, that is where we're at because they have Will Warren and Carlos Carrasco in the rotation. Those guys were not supposed to be anywhere near the rotation this year. But that's where we're at. So, look, I think the lineup is going to hit. I think some guys got to change their approach, though, because, Jazz Chisholm, it seems like he's just trying to hit a home run every single time he gets up to the plate. And this was one of my knocks on Jazz. Even back to last year, he swings at a lot of pitches out of the zone. Got to have better plate discipline. I think he's a good player, but there are some things he has to work on when it comes to his approach at the plate. Just get on base. That's all we're asking. But, the lineup is going to hit. And, I like what I've seen from, Ben Rice. Again, Volpe's gotten off to a good start. Goldschmidt's looked good. Judge, has kind of cooled off a little bit, but, he's going to be fine. Hopefully Bellinger gets it going more. Although he dealt with some food poisoning the other day from some wings. And I just saw that he said that he's never going to eat wings again, or at least for the foreseeable future. And the bullpen's got to get healthy. There's still a lot of guys they're missing out of the bullpen. And, if they get those guys back, look, the bullpen is going to be good. The lineup is going to hit. However, the rotation is a concern. Because, yes, they have a good bullpen. But the bullpen's really not going to matter if, the rotation is putting you behind and you have to deal with coming back. And that's a concern for me throughout the year because if the rotation doesn't get better, I mean, this season could definitely unravel. Could the Yankees make a move? Like I said, sure, but you're going to have to give up stuff. You're going to have to give up prospects. And I don't know, the Yankees are on a budget, so I don't know if they're going to want to do that. But we'll have to wait and see. Again, we're only 11 games into the year. There's plenty of season left. So again, I am not going to overreact to this tough start. I'm not. What I will overreact to is the fact that my camera is giving me issues. That is what I'm going to overreact to. Because it is, I keep plugging it back at, there we go, up, and I see the light. What is going on today? But yeah, I'm not going to overreact. Now, if we get to the summer and they're still playing like this, then Are we still here? Hello? Yeah, I don't know if I cut out there. Yeah, still dealing with camera issues. I don't know what's going on, but I think we might have timed out briefly. If we did, like I said, not going to overreact. But the one thing I'll say is, the Yankees, they would get off to these, right? They'd get off to these slow start or these fast starts, right? The last couple of years, and then they would kind of cool off. But now, what if they get off to a little bit of a slow start, and then they finish the season strong? How about that? Maybe. All right, I'm going to have to figure this camera stuff out during the break because I don't know what is going on. I apologize, though, if I was, cutting out there, but, yeah, I don't know what's going on. But, yeah, so not time to panic yet. They're going to figure things out. I hope. Division's tough. You got the Orioles, you got the Red Sox who are playing really well. It's not going to be. It wasn't easy last year because they had to deal with the Orioles, but it's they're not. When you look at this team compared to last year, it's gonna be challenging. It's gonna be challenging. But all I can say is guys got to step up. Guys have to step up. And also the Yankees just are not good against lefties. They're not. And that was a problem last year too. That's why when you watch the games, you're gonna see these teams just unload all their lefties out of their bullpen because they know the Yankees can't hit them. So hopefully things get better. But, actually I wanted to bring up the Dodgers, though, because the Dodgers actually have lost 3 in a row as well. And, there's no panic about the Dodgers. But, everyone's like, man, are they ever going to lose a game? Like, what? The Nationals, they're losing to as well. Nationals yesterday, they won 8-2. Dodgers are dealing with some injuries to their rotation, so yeah, and for no Freddie Freeman, all of a sudden, it's Dodgers have kind of come back down to earth a little bit, but they need that reality check. They need that. They were not going to win every single game. That just wasn't going to happen. So, yeah, that's the baseball talk for today. So we are going to take our final break of the show now, and hopefully I can get my camera situation back in order. And then when we come back, we will talk about the NFC East. We will rank the teams post-free agency. So for one final time today, make sure to stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Sports Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we are now going to rank the teams in the NFC East post-free agency. So this is going to be the replacement now for the season overviews, because we were doing that for a while. And now we will do these as we move closer to the draft. Now, this is not going to be as long as, the season overviews, because now we're doing divisions, so that kind of shortens it up a little bit. But this will basically take up all of next week as well. So that's this is the segment 5 replacement. So let's start off with the number 4 team. And I don't want to say this, but I have to. Number 4 is the Giants. I think I like the moves that the Giants have made this offseason. You know, they added a corner, they added a safety, Javon Holland and Adenabo from the Saints. But, you know, and then they also added Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston to the quarterback room. So I do think they made some upgrades, and, you know, they signed a lot of depth guys on the offensive line, the defensive line. You know, they signed Golston from the Cowboys. So, you know, like the defense I like going into the year, just like last year. The problem is when I look at the Giants compared to the other teams in the division, I still don't think, even with all of these moves that they have made, I still don't think they really made progress in trying to narrow the gap between the other teams. Now, maybe with Dallas, but I think Philly and Washington are just, they're far away right now. So, yeah, I got them at number 4. Sorry, Giants. Then I got Dallas at 3. All right, Dallas had a disappointing year last year. You had injuries to Dak Prescott. CeeDee Lamb was banged up towards the end of the year. They weren't great at running the football. The defense also took a little bit of a step back, although it did get better as the year went on. But, you know, they didn't really make any major moves. We saw Zach Martin retire. You know, they signed a couple of running backs to add to their running back room. They signed Javonte Williams, and who else did they sign? I'm trying to think. Who else did they... Hold on. Who's the other running back that the Cowboys signed? Let's go to the Cowboys offseason. But yeah, they really didn't make any major moves that really moved the needle for me, and that was kind of the same as last year. They did re-sign Oza Digizua to their defensive line. They brought in Solomon Thomas. They brought back Avante Turpin. They signed Miles Sanders, that's who it was, who was with the Panthers. They cut him, and now they brought him in. They also signed Paris Campbell to that receiver room. Robert Jones, who was with the Dolphins previously. They brought back Dante Fowler Jr. He was with them previously. They traded for Kai Elam. That was the former first-round pick from the Bills. So, yeah, Kenneth Murray they signed. Yeah, nothing that really moved the needle for me. But I do think Dallas, with the healthy Dak Prescott next year, they will be better. They will win more than 7 games, in my opinion. Now, it's going to be tougher because, you know, now the Commanders are very good. And we didn't really get to see Dak Prescott take on the Commanders, the current iteration of the Commanders, because he got hurt. The Cowboys, however, did split with the Commanders. They won that crazy game in Washington. They did lose the final game of the regular season. Marcus Mariota threw the game-winning touchdown. But, yeah. I think they're going to be better. Now, we'll see what they do in the draft. Could they address the running back position in the draft? Maybe not, because they feel like, oh, we got, 2 veteran guys. And they also still have Deuce Vaughn, I believe. So maybe they don't address that. I think receiver is probably a position they could address because, you got CeeDee Lamb. Brandon Cooks went back to New Orleans. So, yeah, outside of CeeDee Lamb, it's kind of up in the air. So I think they could definitely address the receiver position. Running back, like I said, maybe. Offensive line. The defense, I think, with DeMarcus Lawrence leaving, that could be something they address. But I got them at 3. I think they're still better than the Giants. So now we get to number 2. It's the Commanders. I love what the Commanders did. They traded for Deebo Samuel. You added number 2 to that wide receiver room behind Terry McLaurin. I do like that move. I feel like Deebo is going to be on a redemption tour, and I think he'll bounce back. I think he will do well with the Commanders, and I think they'll have a lot of different, schemes and plays developed for him. So I like that move. But the Laramie Tunsil deal I thought came out of nowhere. I didn't expect that. That's a really good left tackle that they traded for, and they get him from a team in the Texans where it's like, offensive line was not good for the Texans last year. Why are you trading one of your best offensive linemen. But that's what they did. And look, they made it all the way to the NFC Championship game, and I did not expect them to do that. I didn't have them making the playoffs. I had them, finishing at the bottom of the division. And I was wrong. But that had a lot to do with their young quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who played really well last year. And I think we expect him to be even better in year 2. So I got the Commanders at 2. And then at 1, I know they lost guys, but can't put the Eagles anywhere else other than 1. They're the Super Bowl champions. They are the Super Bowl champions. They are going to be good once again next year. They're going to be a problem. Some guys they're going to have to replace, but you know what? This is the front office that can do that. Where they lose guys, but hey, they can find replacements. You had Saquon Barkley come in, and he had his best year by far. Jalen Hurts was solid, especially in the postseason. You got 2 very good receivers. I'm curious to see what they do with Dallas Goedert, because I know I've been seeing that he could be traded. The defense also, the offensive line, can't forget about them, the best unit in football. And then, the defense was incredible in the Super Bowl. And they did lose guys on defense, but I think they'll be okay. They re-signed Zach Bond, which I think was very important for them to do. You still got Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell going into their second years in the NFL. I mean, this team's going to be a problem. You got the 2 guys up the middle, and Jalen Carter. It's just and Davis. I mean, they're number 1. They're number 1. And we'll see what they do in the draft. I mean, they're going to have to replace some of these veteran guys. Brandon Graham retired. They let go of Darius Slade. They traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson. So, there's guys that they're going to have to replace, and they will be able to do that. So, to go through it again, I got the Giants at 4, Cowboys at 3, Commanders at 2, Eagles at 1. Let me know what you guys think about these rankings. What would your rankings be post-free agency? So, we will cover the other 7 divisions between now and next week. Well, tomorrow and next week. But, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Make sure to, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to both YouTube channels. Again, appreciate you guys' support each and every day when we do the show here. The draft, we're getting closer and closer to it. A couple weeks away. Looking forward to that. NBA playoffs are right around the corner. So, tomorrow on the show, we will talk about the Lakers Mavericks game. We will talk about it because it's a big deal with Luka making his return tonight. Looking forward to that. And, talk about, we'll do more division rankings, things like that. Anything else that comes out, we will cover it. Still in the early stages of what the show's going to be about tomorrow. So, as always, I'm your host Kenneth Grunfelder, signing off from the GSMC Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.